What's your crazy ex story? A friend of mine had a pretty crazy ex. They once lived together and had a pet cat, but started getting into arguments and broke up. While moving out, I believe they were arguing on who to keep the cat even though my friend was the one who bought it. After parting ways, the girl emailed him saying she is suing because she was claiming the cat was hers. My friend had to get a lawyer and everything. She eventually backed out of the whole thing, but damn was she crazy. When my fiancé's ex who he has a kid with found out I was pregnant, she texted him that he should convince me to give it up for adoption because it probably won't even his. Then when that failed to get a reaction, she took a screenshot of the sonogram I posted on Facebook and sent it to him next to a shot of their daughter's sonogram to show how different they looked as proof he wasn't the father of mine. I dated this guy for almost 3 years. One day, I found a second cell phone in his room with only one phone number, incoming and outgoing calls, but a different area code, so I called the number. I explain who I am and tell her that I am not the enemy, and I just needed some answers. She confesses to me that she has, in fact, been dating my BF for 5 years although she has never met him. She met him in a cybersex chat room, remember that being a thing, while she was investigating him for pedophilia, but turned out he was not a pedophile, but just a pervert who liked cybersex. They began a relationship 5 years ago. That means, was the other woman. Anyway, she tells me that she knows about me, but she's going to finally meet him and move in together. They spent Valentine's Day together on the phone, both ordering takeout meals and pressing play of the same DVD while on the phone together. I noped out of there as quickly as I could. I told her that she would not have to worry about me being the other woman any longer, and I would gladly bow out of Crazy Town, and I hoped they were happy together. He got me pregnant and I was scheduled for an abortion. I was only 17, so he agreed to come with me because I didn't want anyone else to know. It was a complete accident. I was on the pill at the time and still don't know what happened. He was my first real boyfriend, and it happened 2 months after losing my virginity. The morning of the procedure, he didn't show up. Okay, except when it was all done I went onto Facebook, and he had posted a status something like, "When your ex pretends to be pregnant to get you back, a laugh face." We had mutual friends, who were all commenting that I was crazy blah blah, and I was faced with the option of ignoring it and having everyone think I was some crazy girl, or defending myself publicly to friends and family about something traumatic that I just went through. Up until the day of, he was sympathetic, and I even peed on a test in front of him. One ultimately couldn't bring myself to talk about it yet, so I ignored it and deleted Facebook for over 2 years. I also didn't date again until my 20s because of it. Over the years it came up several times through rumors and friends of friends. I even had one guy refuse to date me because of my crazy ex persona. He later went to prison for beating the shit out of another girlfriend and killed himself in there. I've never gotten the chance to defend myself, and there are people who still think I'm a nut job to this day. I have so fucking much. So much. All the same person. Caught in lie, and instead of admitting she cheated, claimed she was raped. Then she later moved in with said rapist. She would break up all the time for no reason. She had no limit to the bottomless vessel inside her which requires male attention. She did and still does fabricate drama for the purpose of the argument. Then she likes to act like you are the one with the process born because you are upset. Unfortunately, I have a child with this woman. She called CPS on me and alleged sexual abuse because my 4-year-old daughter asked to sleep in my bed one night. She told our little girl, "Go find a new mommy, because I don't want to be yours anymore," after my daughter had expressed excitement about seeing me one day. Last night, her and her husband made our daughter cry right outside my front door, because they were ordering her to surrender the plastic cell phone toy I had said she could take home. She was really excited about that toy, and that she wasn't allowed to keep it because it came from me. This is the tip of the iceberg. She was constantly breaking up with me over the littlest things. "You didn't return my call or text, I saw you talking to so-and-so, where were you," etc. So after one breakup, she comes back and tells me she slept with another guy and wants to get back. Problem was, I knew the guy and he had herpes. Never touched her again. Plus, did she think almost all my friends referred to that guy as the herpes giver for no reason? Didn't realize how serious it was until I looked back on it. We were in high school. He came over and we were arguing, I think outside my house, and he wanted me to get in his car and ride around and talk instead of argue in front of my parents' house. I refused and he tried to push me in several times. After a couple ties, he picked me up and threw me in the car. I ran out and back into my house. Same guy called me several dozen times in the middle of the night when my phone was on silent. I didn't answer because I was asleep, no other reason. So he walked in the middle of the night from his house on the other side of town to mine. Threw rocks at my window to wake me up, which I didn't. Then someone heard him and called the cops on him. He ran from the cops. Then left me voicemails calling me all sorts of shit. We only dated for a summer. She went into a psychotic episode where she calls me at work and says people at her apartment pool attacked her. I leave work and go confront them and they all have this terrified, that girl is crazy, we did not touch her at all look, so I was inclined to believe them considering there were a ton of people there pretty much giving me the same vibe. Shortly after that, she had this ex-boyfriend that was also insane and was still in love with her. He would randomly show up at her house and her brother would have to get him to leave. One day the idiot decides to get really high and drive without his seatbelt on and dies from a car accident. So as a good boyfriend I try and talk her through it and comfort her since I assumed it was pretty emotional for her. She decides that it's my fault he died and blames me for it all, and if it wasn't for me he'd still be alive. After that's all done with, sometime later, when she thought I was ignoring her she messaged me she was going to kill herself, 2 separate occasions, and I had to call her mom, friends, and aunts. Another time she asked if I wanted to get food and I told her I had a midterm. At the exact time, she asked and responded with the "K, have a nice life, bye," which I didn't respond to, and then she said she was going to kill herself. She was eventually admitted to a psych ward, and I think is living a sober lifestyle. We break up. After a couple of weeks she comes over to my house and lets herself in at 2 a.m. unlocked. College, makes herself a drink, and comes and finds me playing Xbox in the living room. She was already drunk. Says she wants to get back together. I say bad idea and she should probably go. She gets upset but leaves. She comes back about an hour later with a destroyed phone, asks if I think it can be fixed. I say no again, but ask what happened to it. She says she pulled over in a parking lot after she left, threw it on the ground and ran over it a few times because she was mad I wouldn't get back together. Tried to blame the broken phone on me and says she'll forgive me if I get back together. I say no, she needs to leave. She says not until we get back together. Lock myself in my room, she falls asleep on the couch, she was gone when I woke up. Never heard from her again. My ex-fiancé was a real piece of work. He did a lot of emotional abuse even in the good moments of our relationship, including, but not limited to, breaking my shit when he was angry, using BDSM to take out his frustration on me, once hitting me while he was blackout drunk, hyper-aggressive and dangerous driving, controlling my appearance and friends, and gaslighting. When we broke up, it was because he hit me again while drunk. He claims not to remember either instance, and says I made both up. And after I finally found the strength to end it with him, it got so much worse. Some highlights are, him spitting in the motorcycle helmet my new boyfriend bought me, him spitting on me, him threatening to kill me and my new boyfriend if he ever saw either of us at my work, him refusing to communicate on my terms to get me off our lease so I could cut ties with him telling me to kill yourself like your uncle did while I was suicidally depressed, him stealing one of my paychecks, and him hiding little papers that had the word whore on them all over my packed stuff. I found one like, a year later. He claims all of that was panic attacks, but what kind of panic attack lasts long enough for you to break into someone's room, find creative spaces to hide a bunch of bits of paper, write out those bits of paper, hide them, and then put things back in order so I wouldn't notice? Anywho, he then moved back up north and convinced a bunch of my friends that I was the abuser, not him, so I lost a lot of people. Then again, they took the side of someone with no proof, because he was more convenient to keep as a friend, instead of the side of someone with an entire file of threatening texts, text admitting what he'd done, etc. So, fuck them. I had a guy I knew for 14 years and dated for 3 break up with me over text, while I was in another city visiting my dying grandfather. I told him the doctors are saying my grandfather won't make it through the night. He didn't, and my ex's response was we should see other people. When I got back into town, he refused to acknowledge that he had broken up with me and refused to leave my apartment. Nobody would pay him to sit in my apartment for 16 hours a day playing World of Warcraft. So I told him I was going to work and wouldn't come back until he had moved out. That night I stayed at a friend's and my phone died. When I finally was able to plug my phone in, I had 46 text messages. My ex had called the police, my mom, my dad, my grandma, and my work, saying I hadn't come home for 3 days and he was concerned. Needless to say, we don't talk anymore. Her and I were together for almost 5 years, planned to get married, already bought the ring. 3 months prior to our 5th anniversary, we had a big fight. I was working 16 to 18-hour shifts as a manager at McDonald's, pretty stressful shit. I came home from a shift and asked her for some money. We shared bank accounts. I know, big mistake. Come to find out, she had spent an entire 2-week paycheck in one night. We fought, and she ended up leaving to stay at her parents' house for a bit. During that 1-week lapse, she called me and said, while I was gone, I went out with another man, I had a great time, better than we've had, I'm leaving you for him. Extremely pissed, I told her to get her shit out of my house in my name, so I started packing everything up for her, calmly in giant bags. After we had our goodbyes, she called our cell phone service and had my phone turned off and reported it as stolen. And to top it all off, she stole my German Shepherd, husky mix puppy that wasn't even 10 weeks old, even though I was the one who paid for all the dog's medical treatments. He would pretend to go to the store and sneak back to the house to peek in windows, thinking I was having lovers over. As soon as he left, we were engaged. I never cheated. Ripped phone out of wall, read my diary. When I finally broke up with him, he gave away all my clothes, threw some out the window, and stole my car, never answering the phone. Eventually, he was reduced to calling constantly, standing in the street outside my house at 2 a.m., crying. Last I heard, he died of AIDS, and so did his wife. Phew. She got furious because I came home after a 13-hour shift on a boat and wanted to just sleep. She was sleeping when I got in anyway. But once she woke up, she went nuts that I didn't greet her and that I slept with my back to her. In hindsight, not the best idea considering she was Korazoi. She decides to scream at the top of her lungs all sorts of shit, deliberately so my neighbors would hear. She starts slapping me, spitting on me, screaming. One pin her down, she says to let go or she'll get even worse, but when I let go she just carried on. Had no clue how to handle this situation. She went to the kitchen for a knife, got way too close to me with it, pinned her down again, threw the knife away. She reached behind her back trying to claw my balls off. I let her go after she began to calm down. She runs and picks up the knife, goes to the kitchen, legit collapses on my bin and starts cutting her calf with the knife. She asked me not to judge her by one moment of weakness. I moved out. Decent lay though. I broke up with him to date someone else while doing a year abroad in France. Admittedly not my best moment, but I figured it was better than cheating. He proceeded to stalk all of my friends until he figured out which one I was dating, then explained to him in graphic detail what happened to me when I was sexually assaulted as a kid, basically framing me as a whore because I didn't fight off an 18-year-old when I was 4. At this point he didn't know, the only people that did were my ex and a cousin who figured it out on his own. When that didn't dissuade my boyfriend, now husband, from dating me, he then proceeded to tell him more and more outlandish lies about things that I had apparently done or said until he was harassing him every day in hopes he would get rid of me. He eventually stopped once he got a new girlfriend, except when me and my husband got married. He wrote him this long-ass letter about how he had me first and shit. The worst thing is he still contacts me occasionally to ask if he can come visit us, as we live in France, and he thinks we are beverned all that and wants a free place to stay. Ooh no, my dude. He was super controlling, demanded all my passwords, got everything, shut down my Facebook without my permission, wouldn't let me see my friends, the usual controlling ex stuff. One night, he took my external hard drive, which had everything I'd been saving for about 10 years, and demanded that I erase it in front of him to prove my love. He knew how much it meant to me as a very nostalgic person. I told him to fuck off, grabbed the drive, and went to stay with my brother. I hid it at his house until I managed to break it off with crazy dude. He also flipped shit one day when he realized he didn't have the password for my work schedule app. Like, WTF. What sketchy shit am I possibly getting up to on there? And I had to get a ride to my place from a coworker in the middle of the work day because crazy dude was threatening to spray paint all my clothes and throw all my possessions in the dumpster. This was years ago, and I'm okay now. Took my whole family to move me out of the apartment while he locked himself in the bathroom and screamed and cried. The one that really takes it was a guy I was engaged to. First he dumped me via text when we were living together, so I go to our place and hurl his belongings into a suitcase and return them to him, including a cell phone that was his with a SIM in it that was supposed to be deactivated. Only it wasn't, and it was still set up for bills to come out of my account. The bill was £500. He'd sent 2,000 text messages in one day. This was before unlimited plans and to a premium number. Then for over the next few months I started getting bills for things I hadn't bought, tires when I didn't own a car, etc. He'd memorized all my details and took out huge amounts of credit in my name, then never paid any of it back, and when it defaulted it came back to me. This was early days of buying things online. Think it was about 20k all in all. He left the country. I still can't get credit. Definitely not near as crazy as most of these. But I dated a guy when I was 16, and he was 22. We dated just over a month before he went to jail, and we broke up. He'd gone to jail because he broke into some girl's apartment, and she caught him hiding under her bed. So I break up with him and he's pissed, but I just block him on everything. He couldn't let it go, not in the sense of he loved me and was hurt, more that he was pissed someone dumped him. For the first 3 years after the breakup he'd tell whore at me in public whenever I saw him. He'd get his friends to text me every few months to tell me I was a whore. He even got his niece to add me to Facebook to comment on my photos telling me I was a whore. After that I changed my number. He got caught stealing from a few places in town and banned, so I didn't see him around much, and I iced distances myself from people that knew him. Last time I heard from him was a few months back. He'd made a new Facebook and sent me messages about how I looked better now and things he wants to do to me, and that my best friend is a whore. There was like 30 messages by the time I actually got a Facebook and checked it. I just blocked him and deleted his messages. Seriously, it's been 9 years. You've been with someone for 7 and have 4 kids with her. We dated for a month, hung out twice, and both times I was using you for free booze. Get over it. So let's call her Kay. Kay and I met at college orientation and immediately hit it off as good friends. We were wingmen for each other. I got her dudes, she got me chicks. We never went for each other. We both liked the same music, smoked the same cigs, drank the same whiskey or wine. Both wanted to do law school back in the day. Carbon copies, except she's Catholic and I'm Jewish. Well, fast forward to junior year. We get drunk and separate from our friends. We kiss. She tells me she's looked for me in every guy. I realize I looked for her in every girl. We're amazing together. Just having fun and making our way through life. She also had a new flatmate. This great girl named Elle. Elle was one of those people who you think can't legitimately be that nice. It has to be a front. But now she's a walking sunshine machine. Kay demands that I become friends. Fast forward 6 months. Kay gets too drunk. Attacks Elle for no reason. Kay thinks, for some odd reason, that Elle is trying to steal me. Elle has a boyfriend of 5 years. I pull Kay off and she attacks me. Accuses me of cheating and lying. I back away and try to defuse the situation. She hits me over the head with an empty vodka bottle. I got Elle and left. Had her stay at a friend's place and made sure she was okay. Over the next few days, Kay sent me every picture of us together that she had. Going on about how we are meant to be and shit. Then her last text to me, now I understand how crimes of passion can happen. Haven't heard from her since. Probably too late now, but oh well. I started dating a girl at the end of my senior year of high school. I moved away to be in college a couple months into the relationship, but we decided to do the distance thing. A month or so into that, she started getting incredibly close to a guy at her local community college while at the same time being jealous of any girl I'd befriend. We worked through that, her finally realizing the guy's intentions and cutting contact with him. Sometime during the second semester, I decided to spend my sophomore year at a local community college in order to save some money. That summer she started getting real close with some guy from India that she met on Instagram. I got the same vibes from him that I did from the last guy, and so I made it clear that I wasn't okay with it. She swore he was just her friend, but every once in a while I'd catch a glimpse of her phone while she was texting him, and there were way too many heart emojis for her to have just been his friend. I fought for the relationship the whole time, even though by the end it was more just on principle than anything else. When she finally dumped me, I was more relieved than anything. A couple months after we broke up, she sent me this big wall of text about how I had no right to be angry with her, and I was a fucking asshole, and how she loved him for reasons I was too blind to see. After that she would text me every couple months, at like 6 in the morning, telling me to take some picture down off my Facebook from when we were at a concert, and got to meet one of the bands. Fun times. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe for more videos like this one. Leave your own stories in the comments below.